Good day, everyone. Eric from Helps Law Firm for Seniors and Disabled Persons. Welcome to our YouTube channel today on July 28th, 2025. I'm glad to have you here. My name is Eric, been an attorney for 46 years, the founder of Helps. If you're a first time listening to our channel, we'd like to welcome you. You're going to hear some information here that you probably don't hear other places because it's accurate information. And what we do is we help seniors and disabled persons who are struggling with debt they can't afford to pay. Our most important message to these persons is that federal and state laws protect your Social Security, your pension, your disability, your VA benefits. Virtually all forms of retirement are protected. Can't be taken from you. It's available for your needs. You don't need debt management or debt settlement. You can join if you want, but if you don't have to go without basic needs to pay your debt, you can stop paying the debt. And then there's a federal law put in place called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. One of the provisions that law provides, if you're represented by an attorney, then debt collectors have to leave you alone. They have to communicate with the attorney and not you. And that's what Helps does. We represent seniors and disabled persons. When they find out about us, we talk to them. We go over their situation, and if they decide to enroll, they can enroll in Helps. They give us a list of their creditors they owe money to. We need their name, address, and account number, and we'll send out a cease and desist letter to those creditors, and they're going to leave you alone. And we're always available for you to talk to us, no matter how often, about your financial problems. And you're going to listen today as I talk about this stuff and I explain this. You're going to hear me talk about people that I've talked with, even some people today, or people that sent in emails or questions to Help. So we're going to talk about what they answered, what they asked. And if you have a question, you can put it in the chat feature and I'll address it there. Okay. And like Sunset says, at the beginning, we don't turn anyone away that needs our help, that's qualified for our help. Okay. We want to help. We want to help seniors. So we do. So thanks for being with us today, and thanks for all those that participate. You don't need to participate, but if you do have a question, don't be bashful. Type in the answer. We're not. A lot of times we answer the same question over and over again. It doesn't matter. People that listen to this channel expect that, and a lot of seniors who have financial problems, they like to hear the same thing again, that they're going to be okay, and then why in particular they don't need to worry. And don't think that you're any different than anyone else. Almost half of seniors have incomes within 200% of the poverty line. They owe debt more than ever before. So you're not alone if you have these financial problems, by no means. And there is a solution, and you're going to be okay. So thank you, and welcome Monday. We do this Monday through Thursday. So if you don't get your answer today, you can always call us toll free, 855-435-7787. 855 helps us or helps US. And we have paralegals and attorneys that will answer your questions. Okay? And if they're not available, then we'll take a number, we'll call you back. Okay? So I'll start off with the first. Kat has a question. If you have an unpaid dentist that was supposed to be paid and the dental office refused to answer, if sent to a debt collector, will this be on the credit report? It depends. A lot of times, medical providers like dentist office and doctor's offices don't report to credit bureaus. Okay? A minority do. But if it's turned over to a collection agency, then they could report to a credit bureau. That may or may not be a big deal for you. Okay? When people enroll in Helps, one of the things we ask them is, do you have a credit card with a smaller balance or nothing as though that you'd still like to keep? If the answer is yes, as long as that credit card isn't backed by a bank with whom you have another credit card that you're not going to pay, if you enroll in Helps and you not pay some of your credit cards, you could keep a credit card that you're current on, as long as that's not backed by a bank where you have another credit card that you're not going to pay. So a lot of our clients that enroll in Helps, they decide to keep a credit card and they keep that credit card. Now, in bankruptcy, if you have a credit card that you want to keep. You got to list all your debt. And even if you have a credit card you owe nothing on, that the bank subscribe to a service lets them know if someone filed bankruptcy and they're going to cut your credit off no matter what. So you can keep certain credit if you want with helps. We also have a program for those seniors that are interested. It's called 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score, where you can rebuild your credit after you've been part of helps for 90 days. But a lot of seniors, they're not really interested in rebuilding their credit, but you can do that. Okay. Um, so once again, if you've got a question, put it in the chat feature. Could or should you keep more than one credit card? It doesn't matter. I mean, if you had a credit card, it's individual circumstances. That's your decision. If you have a credit card and it's really big, it may not make any sense to keep that credit card. But if you have a credit card that's small, or maybe a couple that are free and clear, you owe nothing on, you could keep multiple credit cards. Now, if for whatever reason you weren't able to pay that credit card in the future, you could always add that into helps. In other words, if you incur a new debt or find that you can't incur an existing debt that wasn't part of helps, you can always add that in later and give it to us. Okay. So Rich is asking, I work and I collect Social Security. I'm retiring in December. This year I have a small 401k at work. I need to take with me when I leave. How and what kind of account would that be protected in? If only I'm. So your 401k or an IRA, those are independent retirement accounts. 401k is too. Um, that's protected under ERISA, Employment Retirement Income Security Act. No one can take it. It'll be safe. Um, so if you're going to retire in the next few months, I mean, you could theoretically stop making your payments today. No one's going to get around to suing you probably for at least 6 months, if they even do it then. And by then you'd be enrolled in helps, or you'd be getting protected income. So you could still choose to stop paying the debt earlier if you chose to. It's up to you. But you don't have to worry about losing your 401k, Rich, okay? It's going to be okay. So Sandra asks, she says, I am a client of helps. I have a mobile home on property. The title was signed and notarized to my son in 2014. Can they go after it since they now got a judgment? No, shouldn't be a problem. That was 8 years ago. Okay. There is a theory in the law called fraudulent transfer, when you give someone property and they don't get anything for it, like you make a gift of something to a child. But normally after 4 or 5 years, that becomes moot. In other words, it doesn't come into play. So it's been long enough. There shouldn't be a problem with the fact you gave that property to your son, or added him, or if you added him to the title. But even if it was within that time period, it'd be highly unlikely that a creditor would ever make an issue of it. They just don't do it. Okay, for a lot of different reasons. You can always call and talk to us about these issues. We don't give legal advice at Helps. We give legal information. The stuff we give is, basic stuff that we're giving you, information. And we help people in all 50 states. Okay? And we don't turn anyone away that needs our help. Okay? That qualifies for our help. So this person contacts us and says, I'm 70 years old. I receive my pension from the state of California, and I get Social Security as well. I need help with my debts. I'm married. My spouse is 61 on Social Security. Well, it's a typical client. I mean, he gets Social Security, he gets pension from the state, which is protected. Both of them are protected. He doesn't need to pay the debt. His spouse is going to be okay too. She's on Social Security, disability. All forms of Social Security are protected. So we'll be able to call this guy back. If he wants our help, he can roll in help. So give us the debts he owes money to. They're going to leave him alone. Now, they could sue him. Occasionally our clients get sued. And if they get sued, you get us a copy of the lawsuit. We don't need everything. We just usually need the first 3 or 4 pages. We're going to send a letter to the attorney who sued you. We're going to let them know that your income, in this case, Social Security and a pension, is protected, that you can't afford to pay the debt. We understand they're going to get a judgment. We remind them of the protected nature of your bank account. We really don't need to do that because it's protected by your bank, period. Okay. And then we're going to contact you, let you know why you don't need to go to court, why you don't need to worry about the lawsuit. So, yeah, that's what we do. Okay. David asked, I called last Friday. Everyone was busy to talk to. They took my info. How long before someone calls me back? Well, you can call right now if you want, and someone may be available. You can leave another message, and we'll get back to you. You know, we got lots of help. You know, Monday is our busy day, but every day is our busy day sometimes. Okay, but we want to, be able to help you, David. You're not going to worry. Okay. So here's a question that I get answered a lot, and it's my fault. What is considered an old debt? Well, I always say, well, we'll help people so they don't have to worry about their old debt. Well, an old debt could be a minute old, literally. Okay. If we have 5 people call helps, maybe one's being sued, 3 or 4 behind and are being harassed, and 1 out of 5 is completely current on everything. And they may have incurred some debt recently, but finally they realize they can't afford to pay it. So there's no time limit on how old a debt needs to be before we can help seniors so they don't need to worry about paying that debt. Okay. Now, so when I say old debt, I mean a minute old. It's not going to matter. Okay. So here's someone. I talked to someone this morning, a nice 61-year-old senior from California. She doesn't get a lot of income, gets $1,200 in Social Security, and she's on Section 8, and she's having to pay $800 on Section 8. However, the reason she's paying that much is because she was living with her daughter and they were on it together. And when her daughter moved, she's stuck with that hire, but she's got a voucher, so she's going to get rent here real soon, more in line with what her income is, which is approximately a third of the amount you get in income. So, but what she did have is she had a trust. And she didn't have control over the money, someone else did. And someone had sued her and gotten a judgment. I explained to her why. Her Social Security was protected. Twice the amount of her Social Security deposit in her bank account was protected. And the money in her trust is protected. No one can get that. She doesn't have to worry about that. Okay? And if the trustee from the trust gives her some money, as long as there's less than twice the amount of her Social Security in her bank account, that amount would be protected automatically from garnishment. So if she got $1,200 in Social Security, $2,400 in her bank account is protected. And she can roll whenever she wants. It's up to her. Don't need to worry. So Mary asked, do you have to be late on the credit card payments? No, Mary, don't have to be late. In fact, I talked to someone today. In fact, I may have enrolled them. And one of the questions they asked me was, I've got 3 payments coming up this Wednesday. And I said, do they take the money out automatically or do you pay it yourself? She said, well, I pay it myself. You don't need to pay it. And she's not going to enroll yet. She's going to enroll in a month or so. You can stop paying it. You do not have to be behind to enroll in helps. No way. Do you have to be behind? Now, if they were taking it out automatically, what would I have told her? I would have said, well, if you call, if it's a regular credit card, you call them or you get online, you could stop the automatic payment. The other thing you could do is make sure there's no money in your account for them to be able to take anything out. Just pull it out now. Now, if it's a high interest company, payday loan or some high interest lender, you might have a difficult time getting them to stop taking money out of your account automatically. In that event, you can contact your bank and tell them to stop the automatic payment, and they'll stop it. They might charge a little fee. Um, we have an email that explains on how you do that. But no, if you're going to enroll in helps and you've got automatic payments, any more payment you make from now on is money flushed down a toilet. Don't need to do it. You don't need to feel guilty about enrolling in helps. I mean, the clients who enroll, our clients who enroll in helps, they're seniors. Uh, they don't have a lot of income, and they can't afford to pay the debt. It's either that or food or medicine, basic needs. And so, no, you can enroll in helps. You shouldn't feel bad. Okay. I understand if you had the money, you would make the payment, but you simply don't have the money. We don't have any income restrictions on helps. See, some parts of the country are more expensive than other parts of the country. You know, some places in California it's expensive to live, and someone might be getting, relatively large amount of Social Security and maybe a pension. Um, but in California, it doesn't go a long ways. So it depends on the state. So we don't have any income restrictions for helps. It's never been a problem. People that have money, plenty of money, that have debt problems deal with it on their own. They don't come to helps. Okay, but you don't need to feel bad. And we have emails that talk about that. If you ever want us to, we'll send you that. Okay, so here's a couple that contacted us. They're from Florida. Um, husband gets about $2,800 in Social Security, 900 in VA benefits, and he's in his latter 80s. Wife gets only $1,000 in Social Security, and they have a home. They owe 200,000 on it. And it's worth 300,000. But the debt was in the wife's name. She has about 15 to 20,000 in debt. And I talked with both of them on the phone. He has about $1,500 in debt. So the wife enrolled in helps. You don't have to enroll together. So she enrolled in helps, so she doesn't have to worry about the 15,000 in debt that she's on. Her her house is not at risk. In Florida, they have pretty much an unlimited homestead exemption. Um, and I explained to them if whatever reason he later needed to enroll in helps for whatever reason, if there's debt that he forgot about or if couldn't pay that one credit card, we could always add him in. It wouldn't cost anything extra. So if a couple calls us and we enroll one of the spouses, if the other spouse needs to enroll in helps later on, they just go along for the ride. There's not an extra charge. Um, but their home is going to be okay. Now, uh, he's about almost 15 years older than she is. So it's likely he'll pass away before her. And in that event, she'll get the higher of the two Social Securities. She'll get his $2,800 in Social Security, and she'll probably get part of his VA benefit. But the house payment was fairly steep, so she may end up needing to sell it. But and we'll talk about that when time comes to that. Okay, that's the nice thing about helps. When you're a client, it's not a one-time thing. You're a client literally forever, so you can always call us. And that's why helps was founded, so seniors would always have someone to call if they were worried or scared. Occasionally people enroll in helps and they'll get sued, and they'll call us on the phone. Oh, I'm worried. I got sued. I don't know what to do. Get us a copy of the lawsuit. Uh, we're going to explain to you why you're not going to need go to court, why your income is going to be safe, and why your assets are safe. We're going to send a letter to the attorney who sued you, letting them know that your income's protected, so that and that's it. And then if you get other paperwork you're concerned about, you get it to us. We don't want you to worry. Okay? So here's someone who writes a message to us. Can you give me the name and telephone number of a pro bono lawyer in Nashville, Tennessee? That's a for free lawyer. My wife and I are both disabled seniors, 72 and 71. We're indebted to a credit card. So when I read these things, don't think if you're the person I'm talking about, don't think that everyone's going to know who you are, because there's about a gazillion seniors with the same type of situation that I described. So anyway, we're indebted to credit card, loan company, medical bills. Their children help them. They get Meals on Wheels. He doesn't want to have to bother his kids for money anymore. I don't blame him. Either they had independent retirement account monies that are gone, and they looks like they've been living off 3 Chase credit cards, and then they borrowed some high interest loans, okay, to pay down the credit cards. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, and neither one of them can work, and their Social Security checks are just not enough. We don't want to lose our home. You won't. We want to stay here till the day we die. And we don't want to have to file for bankruptcy. You don't need to file bankruptcy. I haven't been paying our medical bills except for our doctors. Other medical bills are in collections, and they're calling us every day. I haven't been answering the phone. I don't have any extra money to work out a payment arrangement with them. I've been watching your videos on YouTube, but since we live in Tennessee, we don't know if you can advise us on what we should do. We help people in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Okay. And I try when I talk on here on YouTube Live, on these messages, I try to tell people, I try to say where this person's calling from so you understand. Okay. Any help you could give us would be appreciated. And they talk about their medical condition. And again, he repeats, he just doesn't want to have to ask for loans from his kids. And thanks us for, you're going to be fine. We're going to call this guy, he's going to be fine. He can stop paying the credit cards and the loan company. Okay. I can't put any extra money in his pocket, but what I can tell him is what debt he's not going to be able to have to pay, so that he's going to be okay. And if he gets sued, he's not going to lose his home. See, every state has a homestead exemption, which is an amount of equity that's protected from creditors. But it's really more important than bankruptcy, because the fact of the matter, in the real world, if a credit card company sued you for a debt, they're not going to try to take your home. They don't do that, even if you have equity in the home over and above the homestead exemption in the state where you live. For a lot of different reasons. Some states have unlimited homestead exemptions. Texas, Florida are good examples. Some states have very large homestead exemptions. Washington, California, Nevada. I mean, a lot of Massachusetts. It just, I mean, I could go through the list, but it doesn't matter. Maybe you live in a state that the homestead exemption is only $20,000, and you got a home that's worth $200,000, and you only owe $50,000 on it. Okay, so that means you might have a homestead exemption equity in your home over $100,000 that's not protected by your state's homestead exemption laws. Does that mean if a creditor for a credit card company were to sue you and get a judgment, that they can come take your home? Well, they just don't do that for a lot of different reasons. Okay, you might own the home with your wife, and the judgment's just against the husband. Okay, or there's a gazillion reasons why they don't do it. And I know. I'm 74, been attorney for 30, 40 years, founder of Helps in 2012 since then. It's just not the practice of consumer judgment creditors to try to take your property you have that's non-exempt. Now, they could try to garnish your bank account, but once again, I've explained why that's protected, right? Twice the amount of your Social Security or federal benefits deposited in that bank account is protected automatically from garnishment. So you don't have to worry about this kind of stuff. And this guy says he's got congestive heart failures and congestive heart failure, and they obviously have a lot of worry. And that's why HELPS was founded, so we could take the worry away from seniors about debt. So they would understand that their income is going to be safe for them, and that if they had any questions, they can always call us. We want to alleviate the worry so you don't have to worry. Okay? Okay. So this person calls us from Oklahoma. It's one of the 52 states, or 52, one of the 50 states where we help people at. Well, I could say also we represent people in territories. We have clients in Guam, American Samoa, Puerto Rico. It doesn't matter. As long as it's affiliated with the United States in some manner, we can help you. This guy says I owe back taxes I can't pay. We can help you with that. How to do that? I have unfiled taxes. I owe at least around 30,000. I defaulted on my installment agreement. Also have payday loans I can't. I receive Social Security and my retirement check monthly. I get around $25 a month total for those. I've had multiple eye surgeries for detached retina over the last couple of years. I had to pay out of pocket because of no insurance. Okay, we'll talk about taxes for a second. Okay, if you owe income taxes to the IRS and your only income is Social Security, you're probably not going to have to pay those taxes because your income is low enough that you can get on what's called currently not collectible status with the IRS. The most the IRS would ever do to try to collect from you would be to send you a letter saying they intend to offset 15% of your Social Security. But they're not going to do that unless they send you a letter saying that, giving you 60 days, and that would give you time to apply for currently not collectible status with the IRS. Okay, and that's what this guy can do. Now, you might not need to do anything. IRS may never bother to send you that letter saying they're going to offset 15% of your Social Security. I don't see them going after pensions. They don't do that. They could, but they don't. And it's pretty rare that they ever tell a senior that they're going to try to take 15% of their Social Security. But you could apply for currently not collectible status and not have to pay the IRS. And approximately, if you're a single person, $2,500 or less, or a couple $3,500 or less, and it goes up with inflation. We have emails that explains how to get on currently not collectible status. So if you owe money to a state tax collector, you don't have to pay it. They can't touch your Social Security. They can't take your pension. And the money in your bank account is protected from garnishment by a state tax collector. I'm talking about income taxes, not talking about property taxes. Now I'm talking about income taxes. It's protected from a state tax collector, just like it would be from a credit card company. Okay, so you don't need to worry about your state taxes. Now, is a state tax collector going to tell you this? No, probably not. No, they don't tell you that, but I'm telling you that. Is a debt collector going to tell you about how your income is protected? No, not going to do that. The only thing they have an obligation to tell you is that they're a debt collector. Information they get can be used for that purpose. They're not required to tell you what your rights are, and that's why it helps us here is that we're going to tell you what your rights are, so you don't need to worry. People sometimes they ask me, well, Eric, if my money is protected, they can't take anything. Why do they sue? Why do they do it? Well, the reason they sue is they count on many seniors not knowing their rights. Not knowing that if they sue, they want the senior to be scared to pick up the phone to call them and make arrangements to make payments. Okay? Okay. Uh, um, so Tina asked, how and when do credit card companies notify you that they're going to sue you? I'm just now stopping some credit card payments. I tried working with them, however, they refused to help. Um, well, sometimes they might send a letter saying they're going to sue, or they possibly could sue, but usually you don't know if you're going to be sued until usually someone knocks on the door and they actually serve you the lawsuit. Now, it is possible you might get a letter from an attorney that files bankruptcy to let you know that you've been sued. Some attorneys subscribe to a service that lets them know if someone's been sued in the locality where they practice law, and they'll send out an advertisement letter to someone letting them know they've been sued and they can come to them, help for filing bankruptcy, which you probably don't need to file. But they're not required to let you know that you've been sued. Okay. But Tina, that doesn't mean that you're going to get sued. Okay. You might, but if your income's protected, like we've talked about here, it doesn't matter if you got sued by 100 different creditors. They can't collect from you. Okay. I used to give a percentage of how many creditors would sue. I don't do that anymore because I've been scolded not to do that, because once in a while people get sued at a higher percentage than what I said it used to be. And so it's best I don't give a number. But let me tell you, it's if you had 10 creditors, they're not all going to sue you. Maybe none of them would. Okay. But it doesn't matter how many sue. Your income. And if you're a member of HELPS, you got sued, you're going to call us on the phone. We're going to assure you why you're going to be okay. We're going to send you an email explaining what your rights are. You're going to get us the information on the lawsuit. We're going to contact the attorney. You're not going to have to go to court. You're not going to need to worry. Okay? Don't want you to worry. And so I've explained back taxes, so you understand that. Well, you don't need to worry about the IRS. Now, obviously, if we have money and we're able to pay our taxes, we should do that. But these laws were put in effect to protect your income from IRS taxes because the government doesn't want seniors to go without their medicine so that they get sick and then government has to take care of them. No, they want you to have that money for adequate food so you don't get pneumonia by not turning on the heat, so that you take your medicine so you don't get sick. They want you to have, they understand that you have to have a basic amount of income. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, if after you listen to this, if you want to call us, you can call us at any time. 855-435-7787. When people call helps, we ask them some questions, like your name, what state you live in, are you married or single? What's your age? Um, we ask how you found out about helps. Um, are you buying a home or renting? And details about that. Are you buying a car? Do you own a car? Have you been sued? Do you owe any taxes? You owe student loans? And then approximately what you owe in debt. So we ask you some basic questions. We're not being nosy. We just need to know what your situation is so that we can give you good information. Then we're going to read a little script about helps and what we do, including what the cost is. Um, Maybe 1 out of 7, 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7 of our clients get our help for free. Those that pay a very small amount. We don't turn anyone away. And then we're going to tell you you can stop paying the debt. You can enroll then or you can enroll later. Sometimes people call us 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times before they decide to enroll in helps. Sometimes we enroll people from helps that have called us originally 2 or 3 years ago. And it's been a long time making the decision to enroll in helps. Doesn't matter. Okay? So this person contacts us from Tennessee. Please send the information packet for seniors with unmanageable debt. Thank you for your help. Yeah, we do have a packet that we send to prospective clients. But I will tell you this, you can get more information on our YouTube page or on our web page, www.helpsishere.org, than you would ever in that packet that we send you, which is just really basic. It's in writing, but you can learn more on our website than anywhere else about helps and what we do. And so we enroll people over the phone. When you enroll, you don't fill out a form that you send in. We can enroll you. We enroll people. That's the magic about helps. We can enroll people immediately. So if a guy's calling and he's just totally distressed, he found out about us this weekend, and the creditors are bothering him and he doesn't know what to do, we can enroll him on the spot. And we push a button, we keep him on the line, and he's going to get an email from us that says, "Welcome to Helps," and it's contained, have our contact information, links to certain videos that he can look at, and he's our client immediately, and we don't need any money to enroll you in Helps. If you enroll, your payment begins either within 30 to 60 days if you're a paying client. Okay, and so we can enroll people immediately. You're going to get an email from us, and then when we hang up, and we're going to keep you on the line until you can tell us, "Yeah, I got that email." Good. And then um, when we hang up, if a creditor called you next minute and you said, "I'm represented by Helps," you give them our name and number, and they call us, you're going to be in our system as our client. So they do call us. They call us all day long, creditors do. Okay. And we say, "Yes, we represent this person. Please don't bother them anymore. Their income is Social Security or pension. It's protected." Okay. So that's what we do. And then you get us the creditors you owe money to, and then within 24 to 48 hours, we're going to send them out a cease and desist letter. Okay. Telling them that they're no longer allowed to call you anymore. Okay. No one should worry. So Paul says, "I joined on Friday. What email address do I send my requested information to?" Is it the info at, yeah, that's it. Info at helpsishere.org. Once in a while, people will leave that S off of helps. It's HELPS, which stands for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors. Although you don't have to be a senior to enroll in helps. It all has to do with your protected income. So really our name is help eliminate legal problems for seniors and disabled persons. But for the email purposes, it's helps is here. Info at helpsishere.org. Yeah. This person writes in, "What if you owe money to the IRS? Can they take your money?" Well, I think I already answered that. You can listen earlier. IRS can do about anything they want, but a lot of things they just simply don't do. Like they don't go after pensions. And if your only income is Social Security, I don't see them doing anything. I think their computer system is set up that they know that you don't have a lot of income, so they're not going to try to collect from you. But if they were, you can apply for currently not collectible status. So this guy calls us from Kentucky. This is some notes from one of the attorneys that helps. The attorney who always says that this was really a nice person. Okay. Okay. Her husband passed away 4 months ago, and she is making payments to a debt relief company. If I remember right, I looked at this, and her only income was a little bit over $1,000 a month, and she was paying a debt relief company. Can I call to cancel? And we told her, yes, cancel. If you're enrolled with a debt management company, first thing I ask is, when you enroll with them, did they tell you that your Social Security and your pension was protected? And if you tell me, no, Eric, they didn't tell me that, then they weren't giving you complete information. You were being taken advantage of. Yeah, you don't need to pay them because your income's protected. That you don't know. Why don't they tell you that? Well, because if they told you that, you would know you didn't need to enroll with them. They want to make money off of you. She's going to close the account that the debt repayment was set up. She lives in a fifth wheel travel trailer. Um, Apparently, she owes money. She's going to change her credit union where she owes on a line of credit to a bank. Yeah, if you owe money to a credit union where you do your banking and you're not going to pay them anymore, then you're going to need to cancel that. You're going to need to change to a different type of bank where you don't owe them money. Okay. Now, a bank, if you owe money to a bank, except for Truist Bank, they wouldn't set off money from your bank account if you owe them and you're not going to pay it. But a credit union will. Unbeknownst to you, when you signed up for the credit union account, or when you made out the credit union loan, you gave them authority to take money out of your bank account if you later didn't make the payment. Now, they normally wouldn't do that unless you were 3 or 4 months behind, which would give you plenty of time to cancel or to change to a different bank where you don't owe money, to have your Social Security go there or your pension. Um, she will call us as soon as she has her new debit card for the new bank. She's going to contact Social Security to request future payments directly deposited in the new bank checking account. She will not give us her credit union creditor until she sees her Social Security income is being directly deposited into her new bank account, which will hopefully happen by the beginning in September. Probably happen before that. Um, you can, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, change to a different. If you owe money to a credit union, you're not going to pay them. You bank there. You're going to need a bank somewhere else. That's it. Okay. So Alan says, I've been served 3 times in the past year, but after talking to Helps, nothing has happened because, like Helps has told me, my Social Security is protected and I can use my money for food, gas, and other things. And Tina says, debt relief consolidation companies are predatory. Yeah, if they don't tell you that your income is protected and you're a senior, I agree. Brian asks, how often does a judgment creditor contest the claim of exemption? Well, it never comes up, Brian. I mean, if you're sued and if they garnish your bank account and you're less than twice the amount of your money in your bank account is less than your Social Security, it's protected automatically by your bank. You don't have to file a challenge to garnishment or claim of exemption. And in those cases where you do that, they don't challenge it because it's based on truth. If you open a new account, should you inform the bank that it's for your Social Security payment? No. If someone were to sue you, Rich, and get a judgment, and they happen to garnish that new bank account, all of which is pretty unlikely, but if they were, there's a department in the bank, and under this federal rule put in effect in 2012, they look at your account and they can determine by the code on the deposit that it came from a federal source like Social Security or VA benefit or a federal retirement. They can determine that it came from a federal source. And they're going to protect twice the amount automatically. Now, if you try to tell that to your bank manager, he's not going to understand. I've yet to talk to a bank manager that understands this rule, but he has nothing to do with it. And don't try to talk with the clerk behind the counter. They have nothing to do with it either. So Richard kind of describes the case. He said, I received a letter from a law firm and they gave me the case number, so I looked it up. The letter you got was probably from a law firm that was advertising for bankruptcy. Some people get 2 or 3 or 4 or half a dozen of those letters. Yep, there. And then he looked it up on. He says he looked it up on the county website. There I was. No sheriff in his posse yet. Filed in court on a Thursday. Received the letter on Monday. Wow, it's pretty fast. Some bankruptcy attorneys are competitive. Um, and I kind of know I used to file thousands of bankrupt. My old firm is the biggest in the state where I came from, still in existence. My brother runs it now. Lots of attorneys. They're very good. They do other things as well. Um, if I make a settlement with a credit card company, will that help my credit score? No, not really. We have a program. They'll A lot of our clients don't care about their rebuilding their credit. Some of them do. We have a program called 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score. After you've been part of Helps for 90 days, it's free. I think it's 6 or 7 programs that you listen to, and you do steps to improve your credit. And within 1.5 to 2 years, you can build your credit back up. And it doesn't require that you pay the old debt. No, you don't have to worry about the old debt. They're going to write it off as they can't collect it. Okay, they're going to write it off. It's based on you rebuilding credit with new credit. Okay, so your credit is based on your recent credit history. You don't have to resolve the old credit to rebuild your credit. Seems kind of funny, doesn't it? You can have a ton of old debt and it can still be owed. And you can have lawsuits against you and judgments. They're not reported on your credit report. But if you have recent credit that you've incurred recently, that's what determines what your credit is. So this person I talked about earlier from where are they from? Kentucky, whose husband had passed away a few months ago. And she's going to stop and have her money go to a different banking institution. Says that she sold 3 of her 6 acres to her neighbor. As her home is a fifth wheel that apparently is parked on this 3 acres that she has. Uh, she's going to put her daughter on the title to the fifth will, and she could add her daughter's name to the property as a joint owner with survivorship rights. That means if someone sues her when she dies, property would automatically go to her daughter, and the property isn't worth a whole lot. There won't be an issue with her property or her fifth will. She's not going to use her property or the fifth will as a collateral for any loan that she would look at in the future. Okay, so this person calls us from Texas. They're 72. They get 2,200 in Social Security and then $935 in an annuity. Okay, so is an annuity protected from debt collectors? Well, it depends on state law. Some states protect an annuity just up to a certain amount. It depends on the state. I just tell you this, in 46 years of practice, I've never seen a creditor go after an annuity. There might be a situation where they legally could do it. I'm just telling you it doesn't happen. But so um, the person that lives in Texas that I'm talking about, they got a home that's worth $40,000. It's free and clear. They don't no mortgage on it, and she gets survivor, Social Security, and annuity income only. Apparently, she was working as a caretaker for some person and making some money, but he recently passed away, so she doesn't have that money and she can no longer afford to pay her bills. And the home this property she owns is a condo. She has an IRS debt with a payment plan in place. We're going to tell her that probably doesn't need to pay that IRS debt. Okay. Apparently, there's a lawsuit filed. She hasn't received the summons, but got an advertisement letter. We answered questions, and she enrolled in helps. So she's going to be fine. She lives in Texas. No one can touch her home. No one can touch her Social Security or her annuity. She's going to be okay. She doesn't need to worry. And we're going to tell her about the IRS. She could, depending on what she gets in income, and it looks like it's not a lot, she can probably, well, she gets $3,100. Depending on what she owes on the IRS, she may want to continue making that small payment to the IRS. Okay. Time is flowing. I just got started talking and now it's 52 minutes after the hour. Sorry about your cat, Linda. Cats can live a long time. I love my cat and I love my dog, but I'm away from them now for a couple years. But when I get back, I'll be with them again. Okay. We got a couple minutes here. So this person contacts us from California. Uh, they're 60. They only get a pension. They're married. And they found us on one of our YouTube videos with senior living. We do a lot of videos with senior living. So this helps our YouTube page, but we do a ton of, if you want to get on YouTube and look senior living videos and then you can find a whole section of several score of videos with helps. A lot of them get hundreds of thousands of views. That's a bigger YouTube page than ours is. And eventually we're going to start doing YouTube live with senior living. That's coming up here, maybe in August. Keeps getting delayed. We're going to do at least one day a week for an hour. And I'll let you all know. And when that happens, I'm going to need everyone to help participate. That will convince senior living that this is a good idea. I suspect if we do YouTube videos with senior living, it will explode. But because they have a lot broader reach than helps does. Okay. So this person, they found us on senior living. They had a stroke and then a mini stroke. Got scammed by someone. The husband is still working. We talked to them about their protected funds. I went through the intake. She's been sued. She does not want her account to be frozen. It won't. If your bank if they get a writ, if someone sues and gets a judgment, they have to know where you bank. Technically, you have 48 hours to look at your account to determine where the money came from. They usually do it within 48 minutes. This law has been in effect since 2012. Okay. It says Eric Olsen. Eric talked about filing an affidavit to prevent a lawsuit. I never said anything like that. You can't prevent someone from suing you in this country. Okay. So someone heard what I said and took it to the next level. But that's okay. They can't, if they sue you and get a judgment, they can't collect from you. That's what I'm telling you. Okay. She's going to call the county to get a form to request the proof of debt. Well, there is no such thing. But anyway, lots of questions about what we do. I'm having a hard time getting information through the narration. That's one of our paralegals. And apparently someone had made up their mind on how this was going to work. But that's okay. We work with people and try to correct your impression if it's wrong. We don't want you to worry. It's the bottom line. Someone the other day complained. I don't know if I talked about this on Thursday. You just say that not to worry, Eric. You say don't worry. How can you say that? I don't know what else to say. What do you want me to say? Worry? No. I'm only being honest with you when I tell people not to worry. Like, there are a lot of attorneys out there who would tell you to worry. I mean, you could think of things to worry about, but the odds of that happening are so remote, and that's only in certain situations, that it's not worth stressing over. So, no, I'm not going to stop saying don't worry. So if you don't like it, go ahead and worry, but you don't need to. Okay. Like this guy this is the note I get from some guy from Florida. He says, my bank account has been garnished with less than 2 times my Social Security benefits in it. Well, it could have been garnished, but they could garnish your bank account, but the bank's going to automatically protect twice the amount that's deposited into it. Now, if they took money out of your account, the reason would be is because the money goes into your checking account and you put money in your savings account. Well, that's not the account into which Social Security was deposited. Therefore, that could be taken. And if that happened, you could file a challenge to garnishment or claim exemption to get it released. Okay. Okay. So this guy calls us from New York. He says, a credit card company came to my house. Well, no, a credit card company didn't come to your house. Probably a debt collector or a process server came to your house. Would have been that. You've been sued. Okay. And so if someone came to your house and you weren't there, if they come later, get us a copy of the lawsuit. We're going to send a letter to the attorney who sued you, let them know that your income's protected. Or if you're not a member of HELPS, call us. We'll go over what you can do, but you're not going to need to worry. Okay? So it's been an hour. Time is literally flowing, but this is the first day of the week, and we're going to be able to talk tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday. So in the meantime, if you haven't got an answer to your question, or if this spurs your mind so you have more questions, call us 855-435-7787, toll free, and we'll talk to you. We don't want you to worry. So Tina, at the very end, asks the question. So it's best not to move your Social Security in an account to avoid garnishment? No, you don't need to move it to another account. If it's protected by your banking account into which it's deposited up to twice the amount automatically without you having to do anything at all, Mary or Tina. You don't need to move it. You don't need to try to hide it from someone. It's protected. If it gets deposited in your checking account, you get $1,500 Social Security, $3,000 is protected automatically. Remember that. God bless. Call us with any more questions. Everyone have a wonderful day.